Alright, so with our model, the first thing I'm going to note is that these different quadrants, basically, since there's 4 of them, represent a different part of the digestive system. So this first one is the esophagus, then the stomach, then the small intestine, then the large intestine. Okay? So make sure you can tell the differences between those based on the layer, because we could easily sticker this one and ask you to identify what organ it is. And you need to know what organ it is. Just small intestine will be fine. Okay, you don't need to know the specific small intestine for this one. Alright, now the layers. So I'm going to do the 4 general layers, and then we'll break up the mucosa and the muscularis. Alright? So the 4 general layers, we have the muscularis, which is going to be this pink, white, and red. Those first 3 all make up the muscularis. This large patch of white that comes next is, oh sorry, the mucosa. I don't know why I said muscularis. These are the mucosa, those 3. The next layer is the submucosa, so the white's going to be that connective tissue example. The next 2 are muscle, so this is the muscularis externa. And then the last one is the serosa, and again that's this white or gray connective tissue. Now note that it says for serosa that in the esophagus it's called something different. So even though I pointed to this one and said it's serosa, this one specifically is actually adventitia. Okay? This one, and this one would all have a serosa. Alright, so now we go into the more specific layers. So within the mucosa layer, you'll note that it's made up of this layer closest to the lumen, which we already know is going to be the mucosal epithelium, because epithelium lines the insides of all lumens. Then this middle layer is the lamina propria, and so again we see the lamina propria lining the pink. And then that last reddish layer is the muscularis mucosa. So you actually have a very thin layer of muscle that makes up or is a part of the mucosa layer. Alright? And that's, again, you can see on every single one of these. Now, the other group we have is the muscularis externa, and that's made up of these 2 layers here. So note that we're always going to have circular muscle come first, longitudinal muscle come second. This view is a longitudinal view of the organ. So we're used to seeing circular muscle look like this, the pointer, like this, and longitudinal muscle look like this. Okay? Because we're looking at a longitudinal view, though, that switches. Okay, so be cognizant of what view you're looking at on the model relative to the slides. So in this one, we have circular here and longitudinal here. Circular is always going to be closer to the lumen. All right. So those are the specifics of that one. And again, we have adventitia here and then serosa all the way down. Any questions? Okay, so that's kind of basic. Glad I don't have any questions. Now we're going to be going over the ones for the slides. So the slides that you're going to be responsible for knowing are the esophagus, stomach, duodenum, and ileum. So it's going to be important for you to identify those ones specifically. We could put a slide of the colon up, or the jejunum, which is basically the only other part that we would be putting up as far as slides go. And you'd be responsible for knowing the IDs in the table at the top of page 11, but you aren't responsible for knowing that they are the colon specifically or the jejunum specifically. But for the 4 listed here, you do need to be able to tell them apart, okay? I'm not going to show you the esophagus, but I'm just going to explain to you